Hello everyone, and welcome to my Lego room. I'm TJ the Brickwright, and today we're going to be talking about a very particular ship. But there's a couple things I need to address first. Number one, I apologize for the lack of video or even a post last week. I was very ill most of the week and wasn't able to get anything done. I sat down to try to put together a video and passed out. So apologize for that, but that's kind of how it goes sometimes. Everybody needs a break once in a while, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is the contest that is going on right now. We've gotten some awesome submissions and some great ideas from people, and I appreciate all the support and the creativity that everyone has. So the contest is ending on July the 13th. It's a Friday the 13th in January, and we're going to be cutting off the submissions at basically midnight that night, Eastern time. So 10 o'clock my time, so I don't have to stay up super late. And then we're going to have the voting phase, which will last for 1 week as before. And then we'll have the announcement the week after that for the winners. So congratulations to everyone. If we start getting a ton of submissions, I may start doing some videos showing off those submissions in advance, doing some early review kind of things for those. So that's something to look forward to. But today, we are doing something very special. I'm going to be showing you something that was in the sidelines in the videos for the last several videos. Some ships that people noticed in the background, and I'm really excited to give you a little bit more of a close-up on this video today. And that is, of course, the Slave One. There have been many ships throughout LEGO's long and storied existence that have been labeled the Slave One. There have been many different versions. Off the top of my head, I can think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versions. Off the top of my head, there's the original that was about $20 when it first came out. There was a redo that was more along the play scale version that we see in these modern ones. There was a second version of the play scale version, and then there was the 20th anniversary, the UCS, and of course the more modern tiny version, which interestingly is closer in size to the original. I just can't get that thing to stay on its stand. Anyway, so we've got this tiny one over here, and this is closer in scale to the very first one that they ever made, but price-wise, it's closer to the second one that they made. There we go. Now it's kind of standing. So this is the newest version. This is the 20th anniversary version, and the 20th anniversary version I think is so much better than this newer one. Obviously, size being comparable to the play scale Millennium Falcons and things like that, whereas this one is just kind of a joke. There's no rotating cockpit like in all the other ones. It's pretty swooshable, the new one. It's got a little handle on the back that works pretty good for swooshing around, but I have a hard time beating this version that has this rather large handle that you can fly around with, and then has spring-loaded shooter buttons that you can hit to actually launch the missiles out the front, which is really, really cool. On my particular version, I actually had a question about this from one of our local friends, who I'll talk about in a minute, but he asked how I was getting these to stand up, and they really are just 2x6 plates just stuck on the bottom. I'll show you where they are stuck on right there, right below those hooks. Sheesh, having a hard time speaking today. Again, I apologize for the informal nature of this particular video. I know some of you really hate it, because you let me know in the comments. And I do read every comment. So this is the 20th anniversary Slave One. No modifications other than the two little plates on the back to help it stand up. But you're not here to see that. You're not here to see the newer version of Boba Fett Starship, as it is called. You are here to see something new. And so the very first thing that I'm going to show you is a collaboration between myself, well, kind of a collaboration. I'll explain in just a second. This is a combination build between myself And my friend Jackson, who here on YouTube is listed under Bengal Productions. He doesn't do a ton of content right now, but his occasional stuff is pretty fun to watch. So this ship, I originally saw him at Brickslopes 2022 with a Jango Fett version of the 20th Anniversary Slave 1. He said he had to order some parts, but interestingly enough, at the very top, there are 2 printed parts right here with those sand green squares. Those are from the original Jango Fett Slave 1 from way back in, what was it, 2000 something? And this, he said he found them in a pile of bricks at a Bricks and Minifigs location that he works at. And he said, holy cow, I actually got these. So he started making the Jango Fett's version of the Slave 1. Again, I do have my little plates on the bottom here because if it ain't broke, why fix it? So he came up with a studio model, oh my goodness, Stud.io model for the now owned by Lego Bricklink digital model builder. And he sent me the file, and I did a little bit of tweaking, including adding the sand green squares here, which to my eye was a little more accurate to the original, but I'll share more about that in a second. So I went through the ship and changed a few things around, including on the front. Did a little bit of redesign on the front of it, but pretty much everything else is just a recolor. Just going through and changing the colors that already exist on the ship. So on the back of the ship, everything is pretty much identical. So if you look at those two together, they're pretty much exactly the same. And it makes sense because in the show, they basically were the exact same ship, just a little bit of a recoloring. And if I'm going to be totally intellectually honest, there's a problem with Jango Fett Slave 1. And that problem is these being black. They are actually not supposed to be black. In my research, I've discovered more and more that they are actually dark green, very similar to Boba Fett's ship on the side here. However, the original Lego Jango Fett ship actually had black pieces on the side here to differentiate it a little bit. And honestly, I wanted to keep it a little bit closer to the Lego version and then incorporate a little bit of the movie version as well, trying to make a good mix between the two. The Stud.io file he did send to me, I wanted to hopefully clean it up just a little bit so that some of the more harder to find parts could be taken out and replaced with easier parts, but then also make instructions for it to share with all of you as well. But I wanted to get this out there and show everybody because they've been sitting on my shelf for a while, and I figured it's about time to address it with people besides just my patrons. So this is pretty much just a recolor for the most part, like 99%, just changed some colors. The parts that are on here are still pretty much exactly the same. So now you want to see the other reason that you're here, probably very possibly the main reason. And yes, I do have a Jango Fett in there. It's not the original Jango Fett. That is one of the re-releases. I believe it's the one from the Separatist Tank Droid set, if I'm not completely mistaken. But the real reason we're all here is we want to see the last version of Slave 1 that I have. And the real reason I was super excited to get the Jango Fett is because I've had this thing in mind for a very, very long time. This is my Prototype Boba Fett Slave 1. So this Prototype Boba Fett in here actually came from, I believe, one of the Star Wars minifigure encyclopedia books. And I took him out, and ever since I've got him, I was like, you know what? I want to rebuild a Slave 1 as if it was piloted by this Prototype Boba Fett, who was actually supposed to be a stormtrooper. I'm sure a lot of you already know that. But when I was designing the ship and trying to come up with an idea, the very first thing I looked up were these giant, what do they call these? These giant round bricks. I wanted to see what colors they came in, and they do not come in very many colors. As a matter of fact, those are some of the hardest pieces to find. But I saw that they made them in a flat silver. So I started looking for what set they came in. It was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. And I could find these pieces, but it was going to cost me around $10 just for the 4 pieces that I needed to build the ship. Because, again, the piece only came in one set, and it only came with 4. So I'm basically buying an entire set's worth of those parts. Well, as fate would have it, I ended up going to Bricks and Minifigs just after work one day, and they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set that had those pieces in it. And I sat there and went, well, that's fate. And so I buckled down, I bought the set, which I think ended up costing me like $15. Like, it was only an extra $5 to get all the minifigs with the set as well. And I sat on these parts for over a year. I've had these parts ready to go for over a year. The biggest issue I had was, in order to build this model, I needed a digital version of the 20th anniversary Slave 1. This guy over here. I pointed at this one because it's the same thing, obviously. I needed a digital version so that I could change the colors, play around with it a little bit, and see what I wanted to do as far as the coloring went, and then be able to take the pieces and order them directly on Bricklink. However, going through the instructions and building it piece by piece myself, I don't have that kind of time, especially when I'm talking about just doing a recolor of a set. When you're talking about, like, what, 1,200 pieces, it's just not worth the time to me. At least it wasn't yet. I still had the back of my mind going, all right, if I get a chance, I need to sit down and do this. I actually found one person who had a digital file, and I tried to use it, and it just never worked out. But thankfully, Jackson, our friend over at Bengal Productions, actually had the digital file because he wanted to do the same thing. He actually took the time, sat down, copied the instructions, and built the Jango Fett Slave 1. He sent it to me. I saved it as a different file and started changing all the colors to the white and the flat silver as much as I could. So obviously I've got those 2 little pieces as the stands for the back. I apologize. It maybe throws off the look of it just a little bit. But as I was playing around with it, I noticed that there were a few things that I really wanted. On the Prototype Boba Fett, there actually is a single red triangle at the very top of his head. Let's see if we can show you guys what that is. So while he is mostly white with some little accents of gray and things like that, he's got that little red triangle on the very top of his head. Now, Boba Fett has 2 yellow triangles, I believe, and then Jango Fett has black triangles or black marks right above his head. So here we had this Boba Fett that is completely white, except for a few little specks of red and then a little bit of gray to try to show some extra definition on his suit. And so as I was building it, obviously the flat silver worked a lot better with the white than any other color that was available, in my opinion. I guess I could have gone with black and seen how that worked. But then I decided to try to find just a few little accent spots that would be great for the red deal. So obviously at the top, I got that one first because I thought that was a little closer to the triangle. It's at the top of his helmet. It's at the top of the ship. Makes sense. On the sides here, I added those pretty late because I thought that breaking up these wing sections a little bit with all the gray and just a little bit of white would be good. So I threw those on there, and I thought those worked really well. And then my favorite parts are this little red one down here, which is kind of hidden when it's flying towards you. So when it's up in the air, you can't see that one little red piece. But then this red stripe, I don't know why, but I've always been a fan of Lego stripes whenever you can integrate them into a build. And so to be able to have a red stripe that goes all the way up and around, and yes, that also meant changing the little plates that this section is resting on. I have a 1x4 plate that goes across the entire thing to help hold it all in place. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. The red stripe there it's almost seamless other than the little gap between the top and the side. But when I push out the little angled parts, that line almost disappears. I think it works pretty good. So there you have it. I was finally able to put together the white Slave One, which I think is so cool. I think it looks great. I think it looks fantastic with the Prototype Boba Fett inside there. And then if we turn it around on the back, I actually changed quite a few parts on there as well. Made it a little more black and gray. Since this one is flown by a supposed stormtrooper, I thought it might be appropriate that it would go a little bit more gray and black rather than the dark tan or dark bluish gray pieces that are on the back of the original and the Jango version. So I replaced it with a few extra white pieces here and here, and then replaced all the dark tan with black, and then did these in white just to try to give it a more cohesive feel from the front and the back rather than just making it identical. And that may be a bad choice. It may be a good choice. I don't know, but it was a choice. And it's one that I made. So thankfully, I do actually have the Boba Fetts and Jango Fetts in each one of these ships. There is one other Slave One ship that I'm thinking about making, and I don't know if I'm 100% ready to do it or even if it would work at all, but it is a Iron Man Slave One starship. Because, of course, like, Iron Man is one of my favorite Marvel characters, so I figured, hey, why not give it a try, right? But anyway, those are my Slave One collection right now. And that is it. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to kind of gush about these cool ships. Once again, I think my favorite has got to be the Prototype, because I've been trying to build this for so long, and to actually see it realized in front of me and as part of my collection and up on the shelf, it really is a dream come true. So I do want to definitely leave a shout out for our friend Jackson at Bengal Productions, and head over there, see if there's something that you would like, or there's something that's entertaining over on his channel that would be enjoyable. But in the meantime, I'm going to put these guys back on the shelf. We're going to enjoy them for a very long time. I don't think these are ever coming apart. So these parts from my collection are gone. They are disappeared because this is all we have now. This is everything. There's nothing else I could possibly imagine differently that I would want to do on these things. Unless, of course, I could get UCS scale parts, because that would also be pretty cool. But I'm happy to play with these. Those would be good for display. But again, it's the play features. It's being able to play around with them that I love so much. And this collection is definitely going to be at the next Brick Slopes. So before I get any further down the rambling rabbit hole, thank you again for coming and checking out the video. I hope everyone who out there who celebrates this holiday season has an excellent Christmas. And until next time in the Lego Room, play well. I'm TJ the Brickwright.